Go To was, I think we just sort of felt a bit lost. It's like being lost in a fog, you know. We just felt a bit confused as we wrote all the songs very quickly. And there was a little, well, not a little, Barry left at the end of, we did a tour in England and some tours on the continent, and in fact we came over to America for a short 10-day tour on the East Coast only. And then
I remember that, yeah.
He left at the end of that tour. In fact, I wasn't supposed to know he was leaving, but I got word. Colin was saying, look, I think Barry's going to leave. He keeps telling me he's really sick of you know, doing what you say and all this. And so I thought, I better make some provisions. And I actually, from that tour, when Barry was still with the band, I started making calls to Dave in England saying, look, what are you doing? Do you want to join the band and all this sort of thing?
So you were prepared?
So I was sort of getting prepared for Barry to leave. Although when he did leave at the end of Go To, I was still pretty shocked, you know, because I thought, well, there goes the band's sound. It's walking out the door, you know, this whizzing, cheesy organ under his arm, and there it goes. That's the band's sound. But with Drums and Wires, it was almost like starting again from scratch. And for a long time, that was a very favourite album with the band because it sold pretty well, what with having Making Plans for Nigel on it, which was a reasonable size hit in England. And that was like, you know, we tried a new producer, Steve Lillywhite, who then went on to loads of other things, including people like U2 and Simple Minds and stuff. That was good fun to make. That was because there was a new optimism, this new starting again optimism, and Dave was obviously very keen to work hard. You know, he didn't have any of these kinds of plans for usurping just then. So it felt much more of a team thing.
One of my favorite album covers too.
Yeah, you'd be surprised what that cover's been made into. We did a tour of New Zealand, and a kid turned up with a full-size double quilt that he slept under with his head on, and then a girlfriend of his had a jumper with it on, and a friend of his had it on his car. It's been made into all sorts of things. I won't sue Toto. It's okay. But no, it got made into all sorts of things.
You guys have been to Australia a lot.
A couple of times, yeah. That's a really long flight. Oh, it's like being imprisoned in an aeroplane for like half your life. Then you get out and Australia's like California full of drunken English people. Very, very weird place.
A lot of est going on there? Or
well, it's just sunshine and beer.
Terry Chambers lives there now? Is that?
That's right. Yeah, he
changed his.
We'll get to this.
Okay, that's down the road.
He's now drumming with Dragon, who are an Australian band.
Okay. What about Life Begins at the Hop? Does that still sound good to you?
No, that wasn't one of my favourites. I mean, not off that album. My favourites on that album were Making Plans for Nigel, Reel by Reel, Complicated Game, Scissor Man Live. I used to enjoy doing Scissor Man Live. In fact, we did a Scissor Man in a John Peel session for Radio 1. It was actually better than the album version. That came out on B-side sometime later. I enjoyed doing Millions. No, I think Life Begins at the Hop was one of my least favourites on the album, I must admit. Sorry, you should pick up one.
What about Mr. Partridge's Takeaway?
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is a record that I don't think was ever released in America.
No, what's the word?
Domestic.
Domestic,
yeah.
It's such a cozy word.
But that was essentially drawn from Drums and Wires?
That's right. It was mostly Drums and Wires, a few things, a few bits and pieces. I mean, like the first track was actually a track that was never finished for White Music. But yeah, people say, you know, marvellous solo album. I don't actually think of it as a solo album because all I did was play producer and reproduce these tracks. I mean, sift them through the desk, sift the original 24 tracks back through the desk, and then do some ludicrous experiments with faders and effects on the existing tracks. And then where I had a little space, I might have some poems, or I might want to go and improvise some lyrics, or put one or two instruments back on. it was good fun to do because I actually learned a lot of lessons. People say you're going to do another one of those. I don't know. I don't think so. It was just something I really had to get out of my system. Funny enough, it's our biggest selling LP in Japan.
Really?
But that's Japs for you, you know. Most of the lyrics were improvised at the time, just yelled. You know, I just feel in a good mood one morning, and I'd just say, look, turn the tape on. I'm going to go in and yell, so things like I'd just improvise them. So there were not really any set lyrics. Yet the Japanese had to write out all the lyrics, what they thought the lyrics were. And you know, when the Japanese people write lyrics, I mean, some things in this planet you just can predict. The sun's going to come up in the morning, the moon's going to come out at night, the leaves are going to fall off around the end of the year, and the Japanese are going to write the lyrics, whether you supply them or not, and they're going to get them wrong. But there's some great lyrics on the Japanese version. Yeah, I wish I'd thought of those in the first place.
You're listening to The Breakfast Club at WLIR, and we're very pleased that Andy Partridge is here from XTC. I'm Bob Waugh, and we were just speaking about drums and wires. Next was my favorite album, Black Sea. And I have to ask you, I mentioned this to Dave Gregory the other day, what is XTC's affliction with nautical themes? I understand your dad was in the Navy.
That's right, yeah. I don't know, I always wanted to be a sailor as a little kid, just because I wanted to see the world and, you know, big macho thing about, well, I grow up, I'm going to be a sailor, you know, because my dad was a sailor, and I'd see him like once every 6 months. I said, Mum, who's this coming through the door? You know, who's this strange man? Oh, that's your dad. And I thought, great, you know, I'm going to be a sailor when I grow up. So yeah, there's this strange thing bubbling under all the time, like lots of sea themes. I mean, these come out on the new album even more. It's something I feel a great magnetism when I get near the sea. I can't swim, and water petrifies me.
Really?
But when I get near the sea, I just have the urge to like just walk into it or something. You know, it's a great magnetism it has for me.
Anyway, Black Sea.
Black Sea, yeah.
The great cover with the diver suits.
Those diver suits were so heavy. They weighed about 10 stones each, which is how many pounds is that? It's a lot of pounds. It's 14. Pounds in a stone,
something like that.
So what's 10? 140. They weighed 140 pounds each, and the wrist pieces were so tight because they have to be watertight that everyone was turning blue. Everyone's got blue hands. I think they had to touch the hands up on the original. If you still look, you can see lots of people with blue hands. Those diving suits, and they initially screwed the helmets on as well. And I think 3/4 of us got claustrophobic because they had, get me out, clang, 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 clang. But yeah, it was good fun doing that session. I mean, the band protested, you know, we're not going to put those ludicrous suits on, but I just wanted them to wear those suits. And we didn't know what to call that album for a long time. And initially we said, well, we were going to have a bit of fun at Terry the drummer's expense. And I said, look, let's call it Terry and the Love Men, and we'll push Terry to the front. We'll do a band picture, we'll push him to the front, dress him up like a really glitzy 50s singer. We'll be the backup band, you know. We'll call the album Terry and the Love Men.
To which the record company said, no, you can't do that.
Well, they said, are you sure? And we said, yeah, this is great fun. And then Terry backed out a little later. And strangely enough, the Japanese again, I have nothing against the Japanese. Pearl Harbor, that was a bit of a trick. No, nothing against the Japanese, but they went and issued advertisements in Japan for the forthcoming album as Terry and the Love Men. And it was all sorts of things. And then like we really panicked with the title. And I knew I wanted something nautical, I don't know why. And I knew I wanted something dark and menacing, so we just put the two basic suggestions together and came up with Black Sea, you know. There's no communist connotations or any geographical connotations or anything. It was just nautical and dark, you know.
Side one of Black Sea to me is, well, I probably shouldn't describe it as
open mouth,
flawless,
insert foot.
From my point of view, but Respectable Street to No Language in Our Lungs is just great. And in particular, Living Through Another Cuba, I always liked a lot, which wasn't much of a commercial radio success around here for some strange reason, but, well, Generals and Majors, the obvious. And that seemed to me to spawn a lot of whistling at the time.
The whistling usually came about because we couldn't think of what to put in there, and you'd like to say, well, this is where something else goes, or whatever, you know, and you just, well, we'll find something in there. And then, you know, you get to like the whistling, so you leave it. That's happened several times in our records.
It was about that time that you were back in America,
In fact, Living Through Another Cuba was written because of a scary. When was it Reagan who put the draft thing? He did the registration for draft, and
actually, I was probably Carter around that.
That's right. So many kids were really scared. You'd turn up at gigs and they say, "We're so scared, because they're going to send us to war with Iran or whatever." It was Carter.
Yeah.
And we, like the band, got the willies. We thought, "Oh no, we're going to be stuck here, and there's going to be another war broke, and we're going to be stuck in the middle of Bumhole, Wyoming, or whatever, and there's going to be another war breakout." So that was like the initial intention behind Living Through Another Cuba, and it got written. The lyrics got written sort of as a deja vu thing on the missile crisis in the early '60s with Cuba.
Right.
Here it comes again.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were in America when that all blew up.
Also, you experienced some health problems.
Yeah, it was on a really long tour of the States in pretty rancid conditions. We were just traveling in the tiniest of buses. It wasn't even a bus, it was a van, basically. It was a few bucket seats, and we were like traveling ludicrous distances in this thing, not eating properly, not sleeping properly, doing gig after gig after gig. And we got stuck in the snow somewhere in New York State. We hadn't slept for a day or two, and I was feeling particularly wound up, and suddenly my brain just went chung and snapped, and I got out the van while we were stuck in the snowdrift, and I just wandered off in the snow, crying my eyes out. I'd completely forgotten who I was, where I was, what I was doing, and I was just wandering off waist deep in snow. Just my brain just ceased to function, and that really scared me, actually, because for a few days after that I was feeling very fragile and very scared, and thought, well, what happened? Is all this touring going to do this to my brain? So yeah, that was pretty worrying.
There was also the sad news with the release of the new record, The Big Express, that XTC will no longer perform live.
Yeah, that decision was sort of more or less made around the time of English Settlement, and we half-heartedly took English Settlement out on the road in Europe.
When was the last time you played a gig?
The last gig ever was... That was in, it was somewhere just south of, I can't remember where it was.
Was it in America?
Yeah, it was. It was in California, somewhere south of Los Angeles. And damn if I can remember the name of the place now. Anyway, Dave Ward Collin will tell you that. I can't remember what I did yesterday. That was the very last gig. But it was a sort of a decision that I'd made in the back of my mind around the time of making English Settlement. I was getting really sick of touring, and it was really winding me up and sort of making me ill in the brain. And I had a lot of bad things happening on the continent when we took English Settlement out in Europe. I collapsed in France, and I just thought I was just going crazy. I thought, this is yet more of touring doing this to me. And I took myself to a hypnotist and psychiatrist, doctors and all that kind of thing, to find out what was wrong with me. And they couldn't really find anything. And I said, well, it must just be me going crazy. And I said, yeah, okay, let's take the tour to the States then. And we went to the States, and I just couldn't handle it. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't think I can do this. And
I think it was reported in the United States for some strange reason, maybe you can clear this up, that it was an ulcer condition.
Yeah, well, it was basically my stomach was going wrong. That was the big thing, was I was getting terrible pains in my stomach. And it was basically my nervous system was just breaking down and going wrong. And doctors thought, well, it must be ulcers and all this kind of thing. Oh, there's loads of rumours. I mean, I was dead. That was another rumour. That was, in fact, the radio show in the States did an obituary show for me,
really?
Which was nice of them. I can't remember who they were now, but they played a lot of records back to back with no conversation, very, very reverently, and a big lot of rumours went round that I was in a lunatic asylum in England. Loads of people wrote letters saying which lunatic asylum is he in, because we're going to come and visit him and all this sort of thing. So there were loads of rumours got blown up, but basically I was just back in England, sat in the back garden feeling like a bit of a vegetable, with an acoustic guitar in my lap, coming up with the songs that eventually turned into the Mummer album. So I was just really at home, getting away from the entire rest of the world and the rest of humanity, not answering the phone and just being as quiet as possible and thinking, am I ever going to be normal again,
Andy Partridge is with us from XTC at WLIR. You feel okay today?
Oh yeah, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to go out and purchase 20 bicycles or anything. That's a great one. I read a German magazine where it said I owned 20 bicycles. Great one. I own one, which is in the shed, and I don't ride it too much anymore. But this German said, "Yeah, just a report in my magazine. I read the other day that you own 20 bicycles." I said, "Well, no."
English Settlement was next, released as a double album in England and a single record.
Do you have? That's the American version.
Yes,
He's showing me the sleeve. God, look at the colour of that green. I mean, is that grass? The English edition was supposed to be grass green, and it was sort of like, you know, a browny, greeny grass colour, downs colour. I mean, this is sort of AstroTurf green. This version of it.
I understand that Geffen Records, which is the current label that XTC records for in America, is re-releasing English Settlement.
As a double, as the original double album. So, I mean, I should imagine quite a few American people will be hearing about 5 or 6 XTC tracks that they never heard in the first place, which is good fun, I suppose.
Yeah.
In fact, Geffen are putting the whole catalogue out.
They are?
Yeah.
Oh.
They redo everything from white music up to Big Express, and I think they're even contemplating putting out Takeaway.
Oh, great. Senses Working Overtime and Ball and Chain were the two singles from English Settlement.
Yeah. In fact, our biggest hit in England was Senses Working Overtime.
Was it?
Yeah.
Bigger than Nigel?
Oh, yeah. That's the one that... in fact, most people tend to remember Nigel, I think, through sort of its silly fondness.
Mm-hmm.
But English Settlement... Senses Working Overtime was a bigger hit.
After that, there was a period where XTC didn't have a deal in the United States. I remember Mummer...
Yeah, in fact, Mummer was... we delivered Mummer to Epic, and they really got cold feet and said, "Ooh, don't want to put this out, you know. Bit strange, this one."
I remember we were playing that as an import for what seemed like a year before it came out.
Well, I must admit, I was really upset with Epic because I think it was rather bad of them to assume that it wasn't the sort of thing that Americans would want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as if it was saying, "Oh, they'll never understand this, or they won't appreciate its acoustic feel," or whatever. You know, and it was a bit of an insult, I think, to think that Americans wouldn't want to listen to that sort of thing.
"Love on a Farm Boy's Wages" is one of my favorites from.
Thank you. Have this rusty dollar piece.
Also, Wonderland was A Great Fire was the first single.
Yeah, that really went in England. I mean, basically, Radio 1 controls everybody's tastes, you know. And Radio 1 said, "No, we don't like that," so they didn't play it. So it really disappeared. It's the second great lost XTC single, along with "Wait Till Your Boat Goes Down."
Ending on Fire. How was that done?
I'm going to... Sorry, I'm having a giggling fit here. I'll tell you why it was done. I always wanted to do a Pleasant Valley Sunday ending. Yeah, well, they just turn everything into reverb and then slam the tape off, and it just goes... So it's a homage to the Monkees. Basically, you put the whole track into a really long reverb, so it just starts to thunder and roar, and then you slam the tape off, so it just kind of makes this big... explosive white noise sound, but homage to the Monkees.
Okay. Which brings us to 1984 and the Big Express. You recorded the new album in Bath.
That's right, yeah, in England. A very, very picturesque town. It's like Disney got to design an English town. Very beautiful looking town.
I noticed there was a thank you on the back of the record to Kurt and Roland. I assume that's Kurt and Roland from Tears for Fears.
Yeah, they lent us some equipment. We're not really equipment freaks or anything. I mean, I barely know which way to hold the guitar up, you know. Dave's the guitar collector, but we're not really equipment fanatics, and they lent us some keyboard equipment that we didn't have, so I thought it would be nice, because they lent and they didn't charge us high or anything, they just brought it round because they live in Bath and said, here, use this, you know. So that was really nice of them, so I thought we should say thank you.
There was... I mentioned this to Dave Gregory when we had him on the 5:30 phone call the other day, and got a big laugh out of him. I said, I see Kurt and Roland as being acknowledged, but how did Marilyn get involved with the XTC?
Oh, that's not, yeah.
He said, oh, no.
No, it's not that one. No. Marilyn is actually somebody who I could spend a long time talking about, but it's incredibly trivial. She's actually the girlfriend of the designer who helped put the concept together with me about the wheel and stuff, and she actually had to do lots of manual lifting of generators and lights and things, because we went down an old railway siding to photograph the parts of train and rusty side of train and stuff like that make up the sleeve. So she was just put on because she did lots of menial humping work, you know, and carrying generators and stuff like that.
To All You Pretty Girls, which is the single off the new record, seems like the ultimate...
The ultimate desire to join the Navy. Yes, it's our answer to in the Navy. Go on, carry on. Interrupt you there.
Well, you pretty much said it for
me.
me.
We're going to do YWCA next.
I understand there is a video to it that... Just judging by the lyrics, sounds like it could have been or must have been a lot of fun to make.
Yeah, I must admit, videos always disappoint me. They still do. But they're good fun to make, and hopefully that translates into watching videos. But something about videos, it's just, for me, still... I mean, I'm talking about everybody else's and ours. Something about them that still doesn't excite me too much. I mean, I don't get as excited watching a pop video as I do like a cartoon or an advertisement, say, for something else. I just think, because videos are still in their infancy, I mean, pop videos have been going since like 78 or something, really.
Videos, it seems to me that one of the negative aspects of seeing a video from just a listener's or a viewer's point of view is that it's kind of like the difference between reading a book and seeing a movie.
Well, for me, I mean, music is still primarily an ear experience. It's oral, and the thing I find about videos is it's rather Big Brother, because if you took 100 people and put them in a room and you played them a track from an album, whatever, and then you said, okay, now we're going to talk to each one of you, and I want you to tell us the pictures you got in your head. They're all going to have different pictures, their own interpretation, something belongs to them, something special for them. Yet if you brought a different 100 people into that room and said, right, I'm going to show you the video for this track, and they play the video, then you ask each one of them what they think then, they're all going to have the same image, which is as dangerous as it is dull, because those 100 people then have a set image, all the same, of what that music might be about. And it's rather Big Brother, and it's not very creative from the listener's point of view, because you don't have to think, you just see that set of images, and you can bet your life you probably won't come up with another set in your head. But if you just hear music, then everybody makes their own pictures, which is great, because it's something personal, it's something creative. Nobody has the same set of pictures. You know, if you say to somebody, oh, that it made me think of such and such, and somebody else, amazing, so did I. You know, I mean, that is a wonderful coincidence or whatever. But if you say, I saw the video, and yeah, I saw the video too. Oh, I don't know. It's all the same. Everybody sees the same. It's a bit drab.
Andy Partridge is with us from XTC on the Breakfast Club, and we're just about out of time. But well, before I let you go, one last question, and that is, what kind of music do you listen to at home? Are you a record collector? Do you?
I tend to collect them if they're cheap. I go around the junk shop around the corner and climb over the mountain of cookers and fridges he's got there and go to his little records thing at the back there. And he sells most things for, I don't know why this price, but he sells most things for 39 pence, which is about 50 cents. Ludicrously cheap. So if anything's that cheap, I'll buy it no matter what it is. I've got records of Mexican folk music, I've got records of Baroque music, anything if it's cheap, really. I like to take a chance. But I listen to a lot of bebop. I like bebop at home. I'm still crazy about Charlie Parker. I'm purposely not tried to learn anything about him or learn about his music or anything, so it keeps it much more magical. But I like bebop, and I like a lot of Baroque music because I got tons of it real cheap from the place around the corner that sells the fridges and the cookers. And occasionally I buy a record that I didn't know existed when I was a kid. You know, something that, like for example, I bought a Beach Boys album the other week, Smiley Smile, and I never knew that existed really. I mean, I saw it as a kid when I used to take my pocket money in and buy a Beatle LP or whatever, but I never knew what it sounded like, and I just bought it last week, and marvellous, you know, so that's great, because you get to discover things from, you know, that existed in your time, and you never knew what they sounded like, so it's a great little voyage of discovery.